welcome back to the Dempster Mortuary. In this video, I'd like to talk about everything we know so far about the upcoming Michael Myers film that will be releasing on the 19th of October, and what I think about it, my thoughts, my hopes for this film. So, let's get into it. Now, the main thing that prompted this was that Universal Studios just released an image of Michael Myers from the film. They have released a poster for this new movie showing the Myers mask along with the subtext Halloween October 19th. And I personally think that the mask looks really cool. I think they've clearly weathered it, and they're trying to stay true to the fact that this takes place 40 years after the original film. So they did have to make it look weathered, because if you look at recent images, which I'll show on screen right now, of the Myers mask, it does not look good. This is the original mask that they used in the first Halloween movie in 1978. That's the most recent known image of it, and it looks dilapidated, it looks crappy, it looks torn up. So it does make sense to me that they would make this mask look beat up and old and weathered. And I think it looks interesting. I posted online, and a couple people said that Michael looks sad, and I agree. Maybe he misses Loomis. Maybe he misses Donald Pleasance. All right, well, without further ado, let's get into some of the news that we have for this film. So one of the main things that caught my attention with it was that John Carpenter would be involved in the film. He is one of the executive producers, along with the fact that John Carpenter has come back to write the soundtrack for this new film. And that makes me so happy, because if you watch my top 10 horror movie video, you will see that I talk about the soundtrack of Halloween, and it is amazing. The soundtrack of that film was one of the reasons that the film was so successful. I'm sure of it. There was a screening where they showed it without the music, and a lot of people thought, wow, this movie's shit, this is stupid. And then they showed it a while later with the music in, and everyone was, oh my god, this is amazing. The same people were blown away by a film that they thought was stupid the first time because of the amazing soundtrack work that John Carpenter did with the movie. And the fact that he's coming back for this new one leaves some great sense of hope for me that the music will be awesome, because it hasn't really been awesome since the first movie. There have been some interesting renditions of it. Probably the best rendition of the themes since the original was the one in the opening credits of H2O, although the rest of this movie did not use the Halloween soundtrack, which sucked. I was very upset about that, but that would have probably been the best rendition since the original one. And now that we get to see a new one and hear some reimagined work with that soundtrack, I am really excited to see what John decides to do with the music that he wrote 40 years ago. Another thing is Jamie Lee Curtis is back. I think that's fairly known at this point, but she will be returning to play Laurie Strode 40 years later, and she looks badass. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. She seems really awesome. She seems fun, and I love that she's back for this movie. That showed that she thought that it was, doing well, because she wouldn't have come back. She wasn't, there were no contract obligations that she had to fulfill. There was nothing along those lines. She finished that in Resurrection, but yeah, they've killed her off twice now in the series, and she's back again because Laurie doesn't quit. I think everyone was caught a bit off guard when we found out who would be writing and directing this movie. It's David Gordon Green. He is the writer and the director of this film, and he made Pineapple Express. That's just weird. He made he makes silly movies, so it was odd, to say the least, that he was going to be the one at the helm of this new Halloween film. And I have to say that I do have faith in him. I have faith that he will do the series justice, because of the fact that it seems that him and Danny McBride, who's co-writing the movie, which was another weird thing, because Danny McBride is a comedian, so it seemed that this would be a silly movie. It's, I told my dad, who was directing it and who was writing it and all that, and he said, okay, so it's going to be a comedy. And I said, no, I actually think that these two are taking the series very seriously, because they've talked about it publicly, how much they love Halloween and Michael Myers, and that they want to do the series justice. They want to give the fans what they deserve. What We Deserve is a really good Halloween film, and I'm excited because he said that he wouldn't make the movie if John Carpenter didn't like it. And he showed John Carpenter what they planned to do with it, and John Carpenter loved it. He said, "This is awesome. It's great." So the fact that John Carpenter approves is another thing that is making me very happy. So I am inclined to say that I'm willing to give David Gordon Green and Danny McBride a chance with this. I hope they do well, and I have a feeling that they will. But there's always that thing, maybe, who knows? I'm looking on the bright side. I'm hoping for the best. Another interesting thing that came out was that Nick Castle will actually be playing Michael Myers in this film. Now, that was what originally was thought. We thought, oh, Nick Castle's just going to be Michael Myers. That's sort of the case, but not 100% the case. Really what's going on is that Nick Castle will be playing Michael in a couple of scenes, and there will be a different actor who's going to be playing Michael in those other scenes. James Jude Courtney will actually be the one who's playing Michael for the majority of the film, with Nick Castle just doing a couple of scenes. So we were kind of misinformed a little bit, but I don't think that lasted very long. It is really interesting that we have Nick Castle. If you don't know who Nick Castle is, he's the actual guy that played Michael Myers in the original film. So he was the one whose face we saw at the end of the first one. So I think it's really interesting that we have him back. And when they asked him if he could still do Michael Myers, because he's aged, this was back in 1978, and he was an adult then. So now he's senior. I don't want to senior citizen, whatever. But he sent a video to the studio of him walking on a treadmill with a Michael Myers mask on to show that he could still do it. So the shape still got it, guys. Jason Blum will be producing this movie, which is a really cool thing. If you don't know Jason Blum, he is the person behind Blumhouse Productions, and that company has produced some of the greatest horror movies. He's worked a lot with James Wan, Insidious. I believe, did he produce The Conjuring? I feel like he produced The Conjuring. I know for sure he did Insidious. He did Sinister, The Purge, Get Out. Blumhouse Productions is behind a lot of great horror films, and they're a very trusted company. So I do trust Jason Blum. If he thinks a movie's good enough to financially help with, then I believe in the creators of this movie. Cross my fingers. So as far as my thoughts go, I was initially taken a bit off guard when I saw that comedy writers would be doing this film. That was weird to me. That kind of put me off a little bit, but when I read some interviews and I saw what they were talking about and how passionate they were about the series, I started thinking, okay, I'll give these guys a chance. They seem to want to take it seriously. They seem to actually want to make a great Halloween film for the fans, which is what we deserve. Come on. And I was put off guard a bit at the start, but I do have faith that they will do us justice, and I hope that faith is not misplaced. Again, I think the fact that John Carpenter is back to do the music is just awesome. I am a huge music person. Music makes the scene. I mean, if you remove music from a scene, it can lose so much. If you watch Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or what else do I have over here? Or Halloween, you watch any of those movies without the music and they will feel completely different. I don't think I'd want to watch Halloween if it didn't have the music in it. And music changes a scene so much, and the fact that the guy who made the music for the first movie, which is one of the most iconic soundtracks ever, is coming back to do it for this one, I'm very happy about that. I have no doubts in my mind that John Carpenter will do well. I just hope he doesn't over-synth the thing, because that's what the series kind of went on to do, just a lot of synthesizers, and it seemed that was kind of the music that John Carpenter liked for a lot of movies, but I really hope that he stays true to the roots and sticks with more piano and strings and less synthetic sounds and very electronic sounding. I didn't hate that. Like Halloween 2, if you listen to the Halloween 2 or the Halloween 4 theme, they can be very synth. They sound very odd. I don't like the Halloween 4 theme as much as Halloween 2, but I just hope he sticks to the roots of the series and makes music similar to what was in the first one stylistically. of course, that I shouldn't even have to say that, but also when what instruments he's using to make the music. I think the mask design is really cool. It just makes sense that it would be aged and weathered. It would be weird if it was still the clean, pristine thing. That was what never made sense. And some of the cleanest masks in the movies looked the worst. Halloween 4 had one of the worst masks in the whole series. As great as that movie was, it had a horrible mask in it. The mask really hasn't been great since the first two films, because that was the same mask they used in those two. However, weird opinion here, I actually do like the mask in the Rob Zombie remakes. I think that they were actually well done. It looks good. It was a cool reimagining. I thought Michael looked cool in those movies, period. I was happy with the mask in that. I would say after 2, it took until the Rob Zombie remakes before the mask was actually acceptable again. Because in H2O, there's a shot where it's CG. Yeah, a CG mask. The final thing that I'd like to touch on is the violence. I hope that they're smart with the way they handle the violence in this movie, because that was another thing that the sequels did. If you watch Halloween 1 and 2 back to back, you will notice that right when you get to Halloween 2, there is a significant increase in blood and gore and brutality and what we see. In the first one, most of the violence was very hidden. It was in shadows. It wasn't shown. There wasn't a whole lot of blood or on-screen violence in the original Halloween movie. That wasn't until the later sequels, because they were trying to compete with series like Friday the 13th, which had absurd amounts of gore in them. So they were trying to keep up with their competitors there. So they raised the gore levels, and I would like to see, I wouldn't mind like Halloween 2 levels of gore. I don't mean Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. That's ridiculously brutal. But I mean like the original Halloween 2, that level I would be okay with. I feel like I'd prefer the level from the first movie. But, I don't know. I am a person who does like gore in horror movies. I think it fits. It works when it's done well. I don't dislike it. I know for a lot of people it ruins a movie. It doesn't ruin it for me. But I wouldn't mind like Halloween 2 levels of violence, Halloween 4. Halloween 4 wasn't overly violent. There were a couple scenes like that. What was it, a neck snap in the truck? That was pretty brutal. But, yeah, I think I need them to handle the violence realistically. Don't do silly, ridiculous kills. I want this to be like the first or the second movie in the way that they handle violence. I think it's important that they match what the first film did, or match what the second film did, so that we can get that old Michael Myers feel back. That's really important to me, and I hope that they do handle it well. That's going to do it for that episode of the Dempster Mortuary. I just thought I'd do a little video talking about what we know about the new film so far and my thoughts on it. So let me know what your thoughts on this film are down in the comments below. Be free to share your opinion. I'll talk to you if you want to have a conversation about it. I'm completely open to that. If you don't think the movie's going to be good, tell me the movie's not going to be good. That's fine. Everyone has their opinion, and I hope that you still give it a chance, obviously. I think we should all give it a chance as fans of the series. And I will definitely be seeing it release night. So, yeah, let me know what you think of the film down in the comments below. Also, if there's anything you'd like to see on the channel, you can also let me know, because I want to interact with you guys and I want to be able to include you. So if there's anything specific you'd like to see, let me know. And I will see you guys next time. Stay spooky.